listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
Hey, where does the time go? Like, where does it go? It has been over, 100 days since the world shut itself down here in America. And things have been so strange. And in the middle of it all, I started doing these daily vlogs on YouTube with the family. We did 60 of those in a row. And at 60, I said, look, the world has to open up. It kind of did, and then it shut down again. But I've been doing weekly vlogs with the family and sometimes some one-offs. And they're very time-consuming because video editing, anybody who's done any kind of editing knows it's an incredible amount of work. And even more so since the computer I use is completely outdated. And it just takes forever to edit. And if there's one, when you render it, it takes about 2 to 3 hours for a 45-minute video. You render it, it makes a video, it's all stitched together. You watch it. If there's one mistake, you have to re-edit, re-render, another 3 or 4 hours. The videos take days to put together. And I know it's my fault because I'm using an archaic editing program, and I should upgrade at some point. But, you get used to how it works. You get used to, that's my editing program. I know how everything works on it. It's very easy, but when it doesn't work, then it's not easy anymore, and mine is not easy anymore. The computer, I bought the computer, I think I've mentioned this before, I bought the computer at Circuit City. That's how old this computer is. Circuit City. Oh my God. Circuit City? So, things have just been, like I said, it's weird, it's a combination of things are very slow because nothing's open, and then then you add in things are very fast because the days just go by at a clip. The day starts, you do a few things, boom, it's bedtime, and you go, where did the day go? It's already gone. It's bedtime. Right now, it's after 11 p.m. I've had a full day, and I should be winding down, but it's cool out here in the garage. It's not 1,000,000 degrees. Everybody's in bed, so I have this time that I can sit and record this without, because I've done it. I've tried to do this a couple of times, and Rachel comes out. It's not her fault. She doesn't know I'm out here doing this, so I just have to figure it out. And then, what do you talk about? You can't be new movies because there's no new movies to talk about unless you're counting Trolls World Tour or Scooby-Doo. At the beginning of the pandemic shutdown, Josie and I watched Onward on Disney Plus, and that was terrible. And I'm a Dungeons and Dragons guy. I grew up loving Dungeons and Dragons, but the problem with Onward is that the ending is just so unsatisfying. I get what they were doing. I understood it all about the father and, what it means and who's really your mentor. I get all of that. But it did feel kind of like the rug had been pulled out at the end and a bit anticlimactic. But, that's the story they wanted to tell. So you either like it or you don't. I didn't really dig it. I bet if I watched it again, I'd probably enjoy it. Some movies do require a second viewing to enjoy. But first reaction was, I'm good. The same thing I felt about Birds of Prey. I saw it, I'm good. I don't need to watch that again. Other movies I have revisited and found them to be much better than the first time. Maybe I grew as a person. Maybe the circumstances when I watched it were different. Because a lot of that plays into how you enjoy a movie. And that's why when I do movie reviews about, big 80s movies or 90s movies, you got to set the stage. What were you doing at the time? How old were you? Were there toys to collect? Was there a Happy Meal to collect? There were no Happy Meal toys for the first Jurassic Park movie, but I just found the other day a Jurassic Park McDonald's Collector's Cup, and I'm like, oh yeah, McDonald's did this thing where they did Collector's Cups for all these movies. I totally forgot about those. Roger Rabbit, and then Taco Bell had Batman Collector Cups. This is where they're not quite sure if it's a toy movie or not, but we'll make something, so they make collector cups. I used to have stacks of them. You know, every time you got a Coke, you're like, yes, upgrade to the collector cup. I'll take the collector cup. That goes back to the Burger King Star Wars glasses. My mother would buy those. I had every single one of them. I had the Burger King Star Wars glasses. I had the 7-Up Star Wars Slurpee cups. They also had superhero cups. I bought all that stuff. I mean, you did too, right? There was even a Return of the Jedi cup free if you bought Pepperidge Farm Star Wars cookies, and the display was in the store, so you could just put the cookies in your cart and then take a cup from the display. So of course my mom bought enough cookies and she bought all the cups. Jeffrey, I got you all the cups. I'm like, I must have had 30 of them. How many boxes of cookies is that? I don't know. I have no idea what the woman was up to cookie-wise, but I do remember in my lunch getting, to go to school, Star Wars cookies for months on end. The cookies weren't that good, but they were Star Wars, and they were, you got something, so I collected everything. I've always been a collector. You guys know that. So, I've been going to swap meets. The Savers stores here in California didn't open. They have not reopened, even though we have driven by them multiple times. And the last time we drove by them, they had a deep clean service cleaning the store. So it was like, oh, they must be getting ready to open, because here in California, retail can be open. You could open your retail store. You have to limit how many people go in. You have to make sure everybody's wearing a mask. I follow all the rules. I've always been a rule follower. But for some reason, Savers doesn't have any plans on reopening. We went to Las Vegas, and all the Savers there were open. But here, not so much. When you call them, you get a machine that says, hi, in the interest of security and safety, we're closed. With no indication. I asked them online, when are your stores opening? They just referred me to their stupid website that offers no information other than, we are closed. What are you going to do? So without Savers in my life, we've been going to swap meets. I've been hitting a swap meet on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So I have been hitting them, and I have found some amazing stuff out there, man. It is so fun. And I'm not talking toys and stuff. I mean, that's easy. I'm talking about what looks like to everybody else a complete box of nothing paper junk. I buy it. They think I'm crazy. I get home, and it's full of treasures. Like, I just found a bunch of old magician's apparatus, old vintage guitar catalogs from a record store, a music store that went out of business. And I'm talking old, like these are 1960s, really old stuff. So it's been a good run. I even found stuff from the movie producer Roland Joffe, who produced a really good movie called The Mission with Robert De Niro and Willem Dafoe. He's done a lot of movies, has an Oscar. And for some reason, there was a bunch of his stuff at the swap meet. So I bought it all. And you know what was in there? Something I had never seen before. An actual ballot for the Academy Awards where you tick off your vote and you mail the ballot. I have never seen that. I wasn't even aware those were even out there, because normally they all get returned back in. It has a return envelope that takes it to Price Waterhouse. I mean, that's pretty darn cool. It's not something I'm going to keep. I'll sell it because I have so much stuff. It's not directly related to Back to the Future or any movies I enjoy. The winner that year was The Artist. It's not a movie I'm real fond of, so I'm okay with selling it. It's not a big deal, but it is cool to see. It is interesting to find stuff at a swap meet of somebody that you're aware of. Like, I know Roland Joffe, and the minute I saw that name, I was like, I'm buying it all. How much for the box? And the guy goes, I don't know, $20. And I'm like, you got it, man. So in this shutdown pandemic, in between doing my work projects from home and keeping my family sane, I have been watching stuff. Not a lot, because like I said, I do keep busy. But I do find time, like, okay, I'm going to watch a movie, or I've watched a lot of Star Trek The Next Generation during the shutdown. I've been rediscovering Star Trek The Next Generation because there were many episodes that I just have never seen. I don't know what they're about. I know all the Keystone, the Touchstone episodes, Relics and Tapestry and A Fistful of Datas, and the one where Data's head is found in turn of the century San Francisco, and Yesterday's Enterprise, and all of the Inner Light, the episodes that are really good. But some of the filler ones in between I've never bothered to watch, and some of them are fantastic. And I have discovered, watching these, how amazing Michael Dorn is. I think the last episode I talked about this, so if I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry, but it's been a while since I've sat down to do an episode. But I'm just astounded how, and I've met Michael Dorn at cons, and it's cool, it's Worf, awesome, look, it's a guy, it's Michael Dorn. But I never was like, I'd like to meet him now just to say, dude, you are so amazing in Star Trek The Next Generation. You know, everybody talks about Picard and Data, and Geordi has good storylines too. Riker's pretty good, but Worf has the best storyline. That whole redemption episode or story arc where he's trying to get back the honor of his family name, that is just stellar storytelling. So I've been watching a lot of Star Trek, but I have been watching some movies. So let's just do a little movie catch-up here. There's no rhyme or reason to these movies. I picked up a few at the Goodwill, a few at the swap meet, and a bunch, I just have movies that I've never watched. I buy them, I put them on the shelf. I buy them, I put them on the shelf, and sometimes I watch them, and sometimes they still stay wrapped in their original cellophane plastic until I'm like, I should watch that. I mean, how many movies do you own that you've never put in a player? Either because you never watched it, or you're like, I've seen it a million times. I had it on VHS. I had it on Laserdisc. I have it on DVD now or Blu-ray, but I'll get to it. It's just I needed it for my collection, and now it's in my collection. So here's a few that I have watched during this shutdown. The first one is one I watched a while back, and I've always wanted to sit down and do an episode about it, but I don't feel like I've seen it enough to go in depth on it. All I know is that I am late to the party. And by that I mean everybody loves this movie and has talked over the years about how great it is. And I've always sort of hemmed and hawed, it can't be that good. What's the big deal? They make a lot of movies like that. No, Jeff, this one's really good. Yeah, I don't know. So I sat down finally, and I've seen it now 3 times. That's how good it is. The movie Tombstone. And I know people swear by this movie, and I get it. I am late to the party on it. It is a movie that I had no idea how unbelievably freaking entertaining it is. I know that it's not a history lesson. It's not a prestige picture like Unforgiven or Dances with Wolves. But what it is arguably the most entertaining Western ever made. I mean, that's a tall order, right? But there is something about the chemistry between Kurt Russell, Bill Paxton, and Sam Elliott as the Earp brothers. There's just something about them. They're so real. The movie looks a lot like Knott's Berry Farm, so maybe that's part of the appeal for me. You know, Knott's was modeled a little bit after Tombstone with the Birdcage Theater and Boot Hill, and some of the shots are like, man, that looks like work. And it just makes you feel good to watch it. But, you know, if you've seen it, I'm not going over anything you haven't talked about with your friends long before I got into it talking about it. But Michael Biehn, Johnny Ringo, Powers Booth, so well done, this movie. And I guess the director had a problem, and Kurt Russell ghost directed a lot of it. They didn't want that revealed till the guy who got credited died, so this has been kept locked away for a while. But it's got a lot of Kurt Russell's stamp on it. Billy Bob Thornton has a great cameo, and that's not even mentioning the best actor in the movie. Val Kilmer steals this movie as Doc Holliday. He has all the best lines. You love him. I mean, this is a guy who played in Top Secret and Real Genius and Batman, for crying out loud, The Saint, The Real McCoy. I mean, Val Kilmer had a fantastic movie career. With a lot of, Iceman, for God's sake, and Top Gun. A lot of really stellar performances. But he is Doc Holliday. He's living it on screen. And you believe everything he says. Right from the start, when the girl that he hangs out with sits on his lap and he goes, "You're not wearing a bustle. That's lewd." Like, okay, I'll follow this guy anywhere. He is so well done in this movie. And the turn of events at the end where he finally takes Ringo down, say when, and I'll be your Huckleberry, like, you know all these lines. They're very well quoted. But he is so stellar. When Kurt Russell blows into town and takes over the gambling establishment from Billy Bob, you may go now. Dana Delaney, Jason Priestley, What a cast. What a, arguably, one of the best summer popcorn movies ever made. I wish they'd put this back on the big screen for a short run. I would love to see it uninterrupted on the big screen the way it was meant to be seen. You know, when he goes, "You tell him I'm coming and I'm bringing hell with me," like, you believe it. You know, and it's funny because when they get to the shootout at the OK Corral, for a lot of movies, that's where it ends. But that's really where Tombstone's just beginning, because that sets in motion the revenge by the cowboys and the return by Wyatt Earp and his brothers getting back at him. You get to see the guy from Avatar. Oh, I just blanked on his name. Really good character actor. He's the party crasher in The Hard Way. Stephen Lang, that's his name. He's great in it. So many fun little character moments. Even Thomas Hayden Church is in it. Like, just stellar. Oh, my God. And I just really enjoy watching it. And then, of course, there's the great cameo by Charlton Heston near the end, which is just stellar. There's only one part of Tombstone that I have trouble with, and it's an editing error, because Kurt Russell is married at the beginning of the movie. His wife is a drug addict. So, you know, like, when he finally decides to boot her, it's going to be okay, because she's not a very good person anyways, and he's in love with Dana Delaney because they're going to live on room service. But he sees her in town, and she's set her sights on him. Like, when a woman like Dana Delaney looks at you like that, I don't know what you do other than, like, go, okay, we have to do this. I don't know how to get around this. And if you've ever seen, Exit to Eden? That's a hard movie to find. Exit to Eden, the sex BDSM movie directed by Gary Marshall, starring Rosie O'Donnell, but Dana Delaney. I mean, based on the novel by Anne Rice. But he sees her at the bar and knows, like, look, she's trouble, because I won't be able to say no to that woman. And he tells his brother, like, look, I'll just avoid her. I just won't see her, and we'll be fine. It's the same thing that Doc Brown does in Back to the Future 3. Well, if I don't pick her up at the train, Marty, then I won't meet this Clara woman, and I won't fall in love, even though we know that Destiny has other ideas in mind. And that the audience knows he's going to get with Dana Delaney. Dana Delaney knows he's going to get with Dana Delaney. The only one who doesn't know is Kurt Russell. But the scene is bracketed by the next scene. There, he is riding a horse, and he rides up upon her, and, like, they're just together. We don't know why she's out riding. We don't know why he's out riding. He has just proclaimed that he's not going to seek her out. He's going to avoid her, and then boom, they're together, and they're riding a horse. Watch the movie, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It is very jarring in tone, because there's no reason behind why is she out there. Oh, she's riding a horse. Okay, why is he out there, and why are they riding up against each other that close? I mean, it's a big, wide open world. It's a very it's a coincidence thing, and I hate coincidences in movies. You got to come up with a good reason. You got to come up with something. I mean, that's your only job, is to tell this story and come up with a reason. But that's a really small nitpick in what is like I said, a stellar popcorn movie. I like this movie so much. I wish I could go back in time and see it in the theater. I wish I had the last 20 years of enjoying Tombstone in instead of just the last, year and a half, maybe. It was at the thrift store, and I'm like, oh, I've heard this is good, and it's $2. I should buy. It was the Vista series, with all the extra. What a really good movie. And there's so few really good movies you can watch over and over again. Most movies are just mediocre. Very few rise to that entertainment level. And I don't have to be high art, because I would put Tombstone in the same vein as Con Air and The Rock and Count of Monte Cristo. And there's more of my phone there. Isn't that great? But movies that are just popcorn movies. And there's nothing wrong with a popcorn movie because, and I'm not saying turn your brain off, because like Mike Stacklasa says, I think that's stupid. I'm never going to turn my brain off in a movie. If something is jarring, it doesn't make sense in the context of the movie, then you got to go back to the drawing board. You got to go back to the drawing board and make it work. I don't really care for stupid movies, but that's not saying I don't like movies that are about being stupid. Does that make sense? Because I think Bill and Ted, a movie about being stupid, is pretty good. Beavis and Butthead Do America is a movie about being stupid, but it's a very well done movie about being stupid. A movie that's stupid about being stupid is just stupid. Boy, I've driven that into the ground, right? So, speaking of stupid movies, I had the unfortunate occasion to watch Cheech Chong's Things Are Tough All Over. Now, I've enjoyed Cheech Chong movies. Cheech Chong's next movie, I think, is a classic. It's very funny. It doesn't have a whole lot of story, but it is a very sturdy, put-together movie. This movie, Things Are Tough All Over. Now, I bought it because some of these movies are out of print. So if you see them on the shelf, look them up on eBay. If they're over $7 or $8, then they're probably out of print, because most DVDs on eBay are like $1. Nobody wants these things. They've been overproduced to the nth degree. But some movies have a short pressing run, and then they're done. You don't get to buy them ever again. So if you see them, you should buy them. Now, I'm not saying you should buy Cheech Chong's next movie. No, I'm sorry. Things Are Tough All Over. Because, oh, God, this movie was so bad. This movie's like 86 minutes or something. It's really short. It felt like 4 hours. Nothing happens in this movie. They play two guys who work at a car wash that is run by two very stereotypical Middle Eastern characters, played by Cheech Chong as well. They destroy some pimp's car, and so the bosses then make them sing at a nightclub where two women fall madly in love with them, even though they don't speak English, they only speak French. So, Cheech and Chong then are tasked with taking laundered drug money or casino money back to Las Vegas in a car, and they don't have gas money for the car, so they keep parting out the car. So by the time they get near Las Vegas, the car's it's like a skeleton of a car. So they give away the seat that contains the money, so that part of the plot is over with. And then, no joke, they sit near a campfire and sing for 10 or 15 minutes. It has as much filler as a cafeteria school hamburger. This movie has nothing to it. It is nothing. And I don't care about stereotypes. That's the time it was made. Those were appropriate. Because another movie I'm going to talk about next had tons of those too. I don't get offended by movies. I'm not that kind of person. If I don't like the movie, just take it off. This one, I do admit, I watched in 1.5 speed on a bunch of it, where you can still hear what they're saying, but it's sped up because they just sing. There's no plot. There's no plot. So they end up at a motel having sex with these two women, and then they hitch a ride to Las Vegas with Rip Taylor. The only reason I watched this movie, because it said Cheech and Chong tackle Las Vegas. And I'm like, oh, it should be some fun early 80s footage of Las Vegas. I'm a big fan of that. I love the footage in Ocean's 11, both versions, Vegas Vacation, a lot of movies that take place in Vegas. Diamonds Are Forever. So I just like, okay, well, this one's about Vegas. They go down the strip one time, out of order, of course. Everybody always goes down the strip out of order. And then they're in a restaurant, and they're hiding out as women. Like, this is... To call this movie tedious is insulting the word tedious. I can't imagine... I assume anybody who went and saw this was high on pot or drugs, and it made sense in a drug haze. That's the only way I can see this movie working, is if you're on some sort of chemicals. It's terrible. The two Middle Eastern men chase them down the street. They go into a porno theater where footage of them having sex with the two women is on the screen because the women made a porno. So the two Middle Eastern men decide they're going to continue making pornography with these two idiots and the two women, and that's how they're going to make their fortune. And that's how the movie ends. Now, of course, I had to dig deep into this movie. Why does it exist? Obviously, Cheech Chong had a multi-picture contract with Universal, so they're going to make any schlock they can come up with and call it the contract good and get paid. So this one was made with their wives. The two women are their wives, so everybody's getting paid. They're on a free road trip across America to make this stupid movie and get paid for it. It's the kind of stuff that Adam Sandler does these days, where he'll only do a movie or a script if it's an exotic locale that he can get a free vacation out of. And isn't that like you hear that and you go, well, that's so stupid. You're getting paid big bucks to make these movies. The least you could do is have a little bit of integrity while you're making them. But instead, it's like, no, we're going to make it with everyone we know. Everyone will get paid. We'll have a free vacation. We'll you know what? We'll tell them it's in Vegas, and we'll set part of it in Vegas. So they'll put us up in Vegas for 3 weeks in a suite, and we'll party all night and make a movie. Hey, look, if you can work that with the studio system, more power to you. But you're fooling yourself if you don't think the audience notices, because we notice. And this was a terrible, terrible... I will never watch this again. I have no need to watch it again. If it wasn't bundled in a 2-pack with next movie, I would give it away. Worthless movie. The only good thing you can say about the DVD for Things Are Tough All Over is that it would probably make a good coaster for a drink. So on the opposite end of that spectrum, I watched another movie where it's obvious it's just a bunch of guys who know each other getting together to make a movie. If they get enough people in the movie, then they only have to work a couple of weeks, and because movies take months to make. But if it's an ensemble cast, then you film your scenes for a week, you take a vacation, somebody else is filming, and then you all get together at the end for the big finale, and because you'd worked on the movie, 2 weeks, you get a big check, the movie gets released, and you get paid for it the rest of your life. Think about that. The people who make these movies that magically hit at the box office, where people want to watch it on TV a couple years later, and then when VHS tapes come out, they want to rent it, and it's still on DVD. This is a perennial DVD movie in the $5 Walmart bin. So everybody who worked on Cannonball Run 2 who's still alive, or their relatives, still get a check. Like, that's an amazing deal you could work out. I want to work out a deal like that. But, I digress. That being said, it's a fun movie. It's Burt Reynolds. It's Dom DeLuise. It's, it's the Rat Pack, Sammy Davis Jr. and Dean Martin, with a cameo at the end, inexplicably, by Frank Sinatra, who is obviously not in any of the shots with them. It's all shot separately. But it's Cannonball Run 2. Jamie Farr plays a stereotype Middle Eastern man. It's the same type of shtick. His dad is Ricardo Montalban, and they're running a race to get back their family honor. It's a sequel. The first one's not a bad movie. It has enough James Bond parodies and Dom DeLuise and Burt Reynolds shtick that you can deal with it. But this one, it's obvious they're just out to have a good time. Now, I have no problem with that, because if it shows up on screen and you at home or you in the theater are like, oh, I'm hanging out with these famous guys, it's fun, then everybody wins. This movie's not too bad. It does have Shirley MacLaine, for some reason, is in this, and the beautiful, oh my God, Mary Lou Henner in her prime. She still looks good today, but this is like right the sweet spot after Taxi. Oh my God, is she just gorgeous woman. But they run this race. Mel Tillis, Tony Danza, Jackie Chan, Richard Kiel. Hey folks, I'm doing this from memory. I have no notes. I just wrote down titles so I would remember which movies to talk about. But Cannonball Run 2 is fun. It's stupid. It's okay to be stupid. Things Are Tough All Over was stupid people doing stupid stuff. Cannonball Run 2 is a fun movie about stupid people doing stupid stuff. So the fun factor amps it up. I know that I try to explain to my kids who Burt Reynolds was. They have no concept. They don't have any idea who Burt Reynolds is. Even if I mention, like, All Dogs Go to Heaven, they're like, no. I go, Smokey and the Bandit? No. Smokey and the Bandit 3? Smokey is the Bandit? No. They don't know Burt Reynolds. Deliverance? No. Cannonball Run? No. They have no concept. And I go, Burt Reynolds, for a decade, was the biggest movie star on the planet. But kids today, it's forgotten. They don't have any idea about that laugh, or what I'm going to talk about is his charisma. This guy just exudes charisma. Women thought he was good looking. He's funny. He's always having a good time. Men want to hang out with him. That's the ultimate guy in a movie. Like, I want to hang out with Burt Reynolds. Look how cool he is. And he's a guy who got a group of friends together, and Hal Needham, the director, and said, look, we're just going to make these fun movies. The studio's going to pay for it, and we'll all have a couple of beers. We'll make these movies, and everybody will make a check. And you're like, I have no problem with that. And it's weird because I had a problem with the Cheech and Chong version of that because it's obvious they didn't care about the quality of the movie. Yes, Cannonball Run is stupid. It has Bobby Brace's orangutans in it, and that's just like slapstick, every which way but loose, monkeys slapping people around and driving a car. And it has a subplot involving Alex Rocco trying to kidnap the prince and hold him for ransom so that Charles Nelson Riley can pay off his mob debts. I mean, the movie's a mess. For a movie that's just about a stupid coast-to-coast race, they sure pack on plot. It has a lot of plot. This is a movie you've seen in probably, It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, Rat Race, $1 Million Mystery, big ensemble movies with a lot of actors, again, so that they can show up for a couple days, get credit on the movie, everybody gets paid. It's okay to do that if the movie's fun, and Cannonball Run, I've said it before, it's fun. Cannonball Run 2. I mean, it's even the second one. It has, who are the supermodels in it? The two supermodels, Cheryl Tiegs, I think, and I can't think of the other woman's name, but they're constantly stealing these amazing sports cars and driving them. Like, I was never into car culture, but I did recognize, the significance of a Lamborghini Countach poster and driving a Lamborghini. If you ever see, the Trapper Keeper with the Lamborghini on it, I want one of those so bad. They're so expensive. They're so rare because everybody destroyed them. If you see a Trapper Keeper with a Lamborghini on it, let me know. I will drive anywhere to find it, man. It is what's the word from 1984? Bitchin'. So, I understand the allure of sports cars. I mean, I've always been into the stupid DeLorean because of Back to the Future. That's the car. Before DeLorean, the Corvette from Corvette Summer. I like movie cars. Okay, here's the movie cars I liked. I liked the Corvette from Corvette Summer. I kind of like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, but I wouldn't drive it. I just thought it was cool to look at. I would drive the Corvette from Corvette Summer. If anybody knows where that car's at, I'd love to see it in person if that's hiding in somebody's car collection at a museum. I don't think I've ever seen it in person. I love the General Lee because I watched Dukes of Hazzard every week. I loved Kit from Knight Rider, of course. I mean, come on. The A-Team van, and then the DeLorean. These are great movie cars. Oh, my God. I love the cars with the sideways back seats in Total Recall, the Schwarzenegger version. I loved Sid Mead's Spinner from Blade Runner. I actually saw that one in person. Oh, what a movie car. I saw it at Disneyland during one of their, I think it was Captain EO or Star Tours weekend. They had the movie cars out front, and the Spinner was out there. I love the Star Car from Last Starfighter. I mean, these are great movie vehicles, man. They're just so cool. What are you going to do, right? They're the stuff dreams are made of. Looking at the movie on the screen, and the car is presented in a bitchin' way. And everybody who's ever owned a DeLorean has told me, Jeff, you would hate this car. It's not a good car. And I'm like a moth to a flame. I can't be dissuaded, even if I get burnt. So anywho, Cannonball Run 2 leads me right into the second movie that I watched. starring Burt Reynolds and a cameo by Mary Lou Henner. This is Blake Edwards, The Man Who Loved Women. What a bizarre movie. This is yet another movie where there's very little plot. It is a movie where Burt Reynolds has sex with a lot of really attractive women. And Blake Edwards obviously just wants to see naked. I mean, Mary Lou Henner is naked in this movie. Like, I couldn't believe, like, that's the chick from Taxi. What's her name? Nardo? Oh, I'm going to screw it up. But I'm like, she is naked in this movie. Oh, my God. Kim Basinger, beautiful. This movie is nothing but beautiful women, one after the other. And he beds them all. And he doesn't even try. He just goes, how you do? Mary Lou Henner, he practically, like, stalks. He says he hit her car. Actually, he busts the taillight out of her car on purpose. And then leaves a note and then calls her, like, gets her information from the DMV and then shows up at her front door. Like, it's, in any other sense, if it wasn't Burt Reynolds, he'd be arrested. But that's the case with good-looking guys in movies always get to do whatever they want with women, and they just swoon. Instead of being freaked out, they just swoon. So, it's obvious Blake Edwards wanted to just film a lot of sex scenes, because that's all the movie is. A lot of sex romps. And it's all narrated by Blake Edwards' wife, Julie Andrews. So she gives the movie this air of legitimacy, I guess. But this movie's just, it's a bizarre movie. It's really slow. Burt Reynolds plays a guy who, it's so, like, I'm gonna describe the plot to you, and you're not even going to believe that this is the plot. The plot of the movie is, he is a sculptor. And he can look at a block of marble and see the sculpture within, and boom, just there it is. But he sees this pair of legs walk by, and he's in a building where the windows are at street level, and he can see up. So he sees a pair of legs that are the greatest pair of legs he's ever seen. So he chases her down, and it turns out to not be Mary Lou Henner. It might be or not, might not be. But it causes him to lose focus. So the movie is about he can't focus on anything in life because he's distracted by chasing tail. Like, you guys approve this? This is a remake of a French movie. So I don't. You can't even blame Blake Edwards, the guy who made Pink Panther. But you can blame him for wanting to remake it, other than, like, again, he must have just wanted to see a lot of chicks, and Julie Andrews was okay with it. I don't know. But the plot of the movie is he bums around sleeping with all these women, not being inspired by them, being upset when, even though he's emotionally closed off and they decide to marry somebody who actually loves them, he's pissed about it. And they like Mary Lou Henner apologizes. I'm sorry I'm getting married, but I have to have a life, and you're not going to give me that life. And he's like, I love you, even though I can't tell you. If I'd seen this movie, and I know I saw it at one time in my life, because I knew Mary Lou Henner was naked in it. I mean, some things stick out in your mind. But if I'd seen this movie earlier, it would have given me a warped idea of how men and women relate. Because in the movie, there's nothing realistic about it at all. Any man who acted this way towards women would be ostracized, and rightly so. He's a complete womanizer. He's a user. He uses these women for sex. He has no interest in being emotionally attached to them. He convinces himself he might be emotionally attached to, of all people, Julie Andrews. So here's what happens. He's having an affair with Kim Basinger. She shoots her husband and gets thrown in jail for murder. And then she skips bail to fly to L.A. to have sex with him again. And he's like, you're wanted for murder. And then the FBI shows up. Like, the movie takes all these weird turns. And I'm like, this is a typical late 70s, early 80s. I mean, it's 84, I think. So it's not even early 80s. But, like, it has an early 70s sensibility where the charisma of Burt Reynolds is supposed to keep the movie going. But you can only go so far, and he spends the most of the movie moping around and having sex, and you're like, well, if I was getting that many women of that caliber, I don't think I'd be upset. You know, you're being kind of a jerk-off, a real jerk-off here. But he has an epiphany. So he's talking to Julie Andrews, his therapist, and there's an earthquake. And during the earthquake, her entire office rattles around, and one of the doors of her cabinets open. And when he lays down, he can use the mirror on the door to look straight up her skirt. So he's staring at her vagina, and he's taken out of his shell. He finally knows what life is all about, and he's going to live it to the fullest. And you're like, what on earth kind of movie is this? And I should tell you, the movie opens with his funeral. It opens with Burt Reynolds dead, and 100 women. You know, he's the man who loved women. So 100 women come to his funeral to pay their respects, but none of them are jealous because they're all just happy they had a little bit of him. Like, are you kidding? I guess it's Burt Reynolds, and at the time, that's totally plausible. But in hindsight, it just comes off coarse and stupid. So he tries to get Julie Andrews to marry him. It doesn't really work out. She breaks up with him. And then we cut to Christmas, and he's hitting on, I think it's a young Celia Ward. I mean, she's gorgeous in the movie. And he just, like, she's buying, like, gifts for her husband or somebody for Christmas. And he's like, no, we should just have sex. And she's like, well, yeah, I guess we should. And I'm like, is that how it worked in 1984? Because I don't remember that working for me in 1987. And it's just three or 4 years later, I'm 16, 17. So I guess I'm not Burt Reynolds. But who is, right? So he's got his verve back, his joie de vivre, his spice of life, because he saw Julie Andrews' skirt. And he's hitting on Celia Ward, and she's gorgeous, and she's going to throw herself into bed with him, and he sees the legs across the street. And I thought, oh my God, I know where this is going. And that's a bad sign when you know where the movie's going. And you know what's going to happen. He chases her, he gets into the street, and because he's chasing tail, he gets hit by a car and dies. No, I take it back. I fooled you on that one. He gets hit by a car and put in the hospital. So he's in a full body cast. And you're like, oh, so maybe the funeral at the beginning was a psych out, because we've had the moment where he should have died, but he didn't die. He never got the girl, the one with the legs, but he's going to live. So he's in the hospital. The nurse is like, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And I kid you not, when she turns to leave, she is silhouetted in the light, so you can see right through her nurse's candy striper outfit. And of course, she's the girl with the legs. And he tries to get out of bed, falls, and dies in the hospital. And he flatlines. And that's when we cut back to his funeral. This was such a colossal waste of a movie. People worked on this for months. This was a prestige picture. When you make a movie with Blake Edwards, you think you're getting prestige. He made some of the funniest movies ever. 10, S.O.B., all the Pink Panther movies, for God's sake. He even in the late 80s rebounded with Skin Deep with John Ritter, which is a pretty darn funny movie. But this is dreck of the highest order. I was stunned at how bad it was, considering the pedigree it's operating under. But again, you have a drink with your friends, the studio's going to pay you. I mean, what did Burt Reynolds make for this? $750,000 for a few months' work to sleep with beautiful women? Why, you just say yes. I mean, what does it matter? Blake Edwards is going to pay you to lay on a couch and stare at his wife's crotch? Sign us up. Why not? Oh, what a dumb movie. I felt cheated watching it. Like, I have 300 or 400 movies or more, and I chose you. And why did you do this to me, Fredo? Fredo, I know it was you. I wanted to kiss it on both sides of its DVD and then fling it across the street. What a dumb movie. So, that's how I've spent most of my nights here when I'm not doing eBay auctions or watching Star Trek. I've been watching these movies. Right now I'm on a James Bond kick, so I may do an episode next talking about some of the James Bond movies I've been watching. I'm a big James Bond movie fan. I love the character. I love the formula. There are some clunkers, but for the most part, James Bond's solid entertainment. But we'll talk about that on the next episode. So, hey, it's good to be back. It's a little weird. Thanks for all your patience on this. I know if you're a long-time listener, you're like, where'd the guy go? But I needed a break. I've had a good break, about a month. I don't feel the pressure to do the shows the way I used to. I don't jones about them. I don't have any stockpile, which is usually how I do. If I can get 3 in the bank, I can relax. I don't have 3 in the bank. I don't have any in the bank. This is the only one I've done. But doing this podcast is like riding a bike, in that I'll probably fall down and hurt myself, but I will do it nonetheless. No, I'm kidding. As you can tell, it's rambling. It's midnight. I've talked an hour. It's good hanging out with you guys. It's good to be part of something in this world where everything seems a little off. You know how before COVID, when you just get the flu, the regular flu, where you didn't think you were dying, but oh, I feel the flu. I feel a little off. Like you couldn't quite tell, like a sore throat, bam, you've got the flu. But sometimes when you get the flu, you're like, I just feel a little bit off. The pages of my book are just not lining up right. Oh, I think I'm getting sick. I think that's how we all feel about right now, The virus isn't going anywhere, but we're doing our best. We're all trying to live our lives, and we're all trying, most importantly, to be good people to each other. If I've said nothing on this show, I have tried to instill in anybody watching it that, to me, being a good person is so important because it's all we have with each other. The relationship we make with each other, trying to do right by each other. I don't abide bullies. I see a lot of bullies online right now. I don't dig it. If you want to be a bully, that's on you. It's a party I'm not going to take an invite to. I am not into bullying people. It is not my job in any way to tell you how to live your life. All I can say is, for me, I wear a mask in public. If the store says to wear a mask, I wear a mask. It's the least I can do as a good human being. At the swap meet, I wear my mask, even though, out here it's the swap meet on a Saturday morning around 10:45. It's about 90 to 100 degrees, but I wear it because I've seen people at work wear a costume head in the same heat for a longer time. If they can do it, and they're shorter than me, and that's short, because I'm short. If they can do it, I can do it. And if wearing it makes me a better person, I have no problem with that. I've always been a guy, if the rules are valid and just, I will follow them. And I'm not preaching it all to you. I'm just talking about me. Just trying to be a good person, man. I feel like Jules in Pulp Fiction, man. Just trying to do the right thing here. I'm trying, Ringo. I'm trying. So, live your life, folks. Do your best. And know that somewhere out in the darkness, there is a tiny little light that is still glowing. And that is the light of 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?
Well, that wasn't such a chore now, was it?